Regional dispatch.
Hi, I have a question.
Aisha Nelson's first 911 call came in just before 5:30 on June 22nd. She asks how to file a police report after she says her boyfriend threatened to kill her.
He do have possession of a gun that I purchased. He did take it, and I didn't make a big fuss about it. But since he threatened my life, he has the means to do it. I don't want him arrested. I just want to make a report. Just in case anything does happen, because I'm going to protect myself.
The woman you just heard is 31-year-old Aisha Nelson. She had placed a 911 call to make a report about her boyfriend threatening to kill her if she did not remove her 6-year-old daughter from his father's home. So, Dayton police were dispatched to the home where they advised Aisha to get the baby out of the house.
He asked me on the video, when are you going to leave? And he just keep doing that. But he's not creating the environment where I'm in other situation where I can leave. Not financially, not physically, none of that. I can leave. I can go sleep in my car, but that's what I have. With a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and it's not an ideal
situation.
It
don't make sense. It's not.
It's definitely not ideal.
But because Aisha was paying most of the bills in this house, she refused to move the baby. Within 48 hours, Aisha Nelson, 31 years old, and her 6-year-old daughter, Harper Gwen, were discovered dead in the basement of the same house. This is the very disturbing story of Aisha Nelson and her daughter. Dayton, Ohio, has higher crime rates than many other U.S. cities, particularly for violent crimes like assaults, robberies, and homicides. For years, the city has struggled with issues tied to poverty, unemployment, and lack of resources, which often fuel dangerous situations. Sadly, these challenges played a role in the heartbreaking story of Aisha Nelson and her young daughter. Aisha Nelson came into the world on March 12, 1991, in Newark, New Jersey, to parents Keely Nelson and Ryan Nelson. While details about her family life are kept private to respect their privacy, it's known she had a twin sister, Tangia Nelson, who shared her childhood. Growing up, the twins likely leaned on each other through life's ups and downs, though their bond remains mostly private. Aisha was described as a bright and caring person who brought joy to everyone around her. She didn't just focus on her own goals. She lifted others up through small acts of support. After attending Central High School, she graduated smoothly in 2009, balancing studies with friendships and hobbies typical of teen life, like sports and clubs. Full of big dreams, Aisha chose to join the U.S. Navy right after high school, eager to serve her country and build a stable future. The military offered her discipline and skills, shaping her into a strong, confident woman, but tragically, this path was indirectly tied to the events that later cut her life short, because it was where she met the man who changed her life. Aisha Nelson met Waverly Dante Hawes during her U.S. Navy training. At the time, Dante was 32 years old but lacked steady work or financial independence, which was unusual for someone his age. Instead, he relied entirely on his father, who owned 4 houses in their neighborhood and let Dante live in one rent-free. His father also paid for Dante's daily needs, including support for his 9-year-old daughter from a past relationship before Aisha came into the picture. Though these red flags hinted at instability, Aisha continued dating him. Even more alarming, she learned Dante had multiple convictions for domestic violence against his ex-partner, the mother of his first child. This should have been a deal-breaker, but Aisha stayed. Friends and family wondered why. Was it Dante's charm, her desire to fix him, or loneliness after military stress? Sadly, her choice to overlook his history would lead to darker consequences. So they started living together in a house owned by Dante's father, and everything seemed fine. Keep in mind that Dante had a 9-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, while Aisha had a 6-year-old daughter from another relationship, making them a family of 4. Though they had no children together, Aisha hoped to create a blended family, imagining support and stability. Instead, living together revealed Dante's true nature. Aisha's initial worry was something else entirely. She noticed his obsession with video games long before his temper flared. His gaming habits weren't just a hobby, they consumed hours of his day, leaving him uninterested in chores, parenting, or even conversations. So, Aisha's main frustration was Dante's failure to help at home. She hoped moving in would mean sharing responsibilities, but instead, she became the sole breadwinner, working long hours while also handling cooking, cleaning, and childcare. Dante's gaming addiction drained their finances too, as he spent money on new games or equipment instead of bills. The stress of balancing her Navy duties and home life left Aisha exhausted and resentful. So in the coming months, their fights about his neglect and gaming grew louder and more frequent. Each time Aisha tried to talk to him about her concerns, Dante responded with anger, shouting, or slamming doors, a troubling echo of his past domestic violence charges. Now, from this incident, Aisha, worried about her family's safety in their tense home, decided to get a small gun for protection. It didn't take long before that gun was used. One day, while 32-year-old Dante was glued to his video games, Aisha confronted him again about his neglect. Their usual arguments were tense, but this time, things exploded into chaos. Then Aisha quickly went and grabbed her gun. Tragically, Dante grabbed the weapon and turned it against her, waving it wildly and shouting threats. Aisha, though brave and defiant, froze when Dante screamed, "If you don't leave, I'll end you." She knew his history, his violent past with his ex, and realized this wasn't an empty threat. So acting fast, Aisha placed a 911 call on June 22nd at 5:29 p.m., her voice shaking as she asked how to file a report about her boyfriend who was trying to kill her.
Regional dispatch.
Hi, I have a question.
Aisha Nelson's first 911 call came in just before 5:30 on June 22nd. She asks how to file a police report after she says her boyfriend threatened to kill her.
He do have possession of a gun that I purchased. He did take it, and I didn't make a big fuss about it. But since he threatened my life, he has the means to do it.
Then, the dispatcher encouraged her to go to a nearby police station and call from there and have officers come to take the report. But Aisha clarified she didn't want Dante arrested. She just wanted to make a record of his threats in case something happened.
I don't want him arrested. I just want to make a report, just in case anything does happen, because I'm going to protect myself.
But the dispatcher, hearing the terror in her tone and Dante's yelling in the background, recognized this was urgent and life-threatening. So the dispatcher, understanding the urgency, suggested nearby shelters where Aisha and her daughter could stay safely. But Aisha repeated firmly that she only wanted a formal report that evening, not to leave the house or make an arrest. She feared provoking Dante further, knowing his temper could turn deadly if he felt cornered. So the next day, on June 23rd at midnight, Aisha called again and asked the dispatcher to send officers to meet her at a Family Dollar store away from their home. With her young daughter, she quickly left the house and drove there, hoping to document the threats quietly. However, because she downplayed the emergency, refusing immediate arrest, the police deprioritized her case, focusing on active crises instead. Waiting for hours in the parking lot with her tired child in the car, Aisha grew frustrated. Around midnight, she called the dispatcher again, canceling the request and saying she'd file the report the next day. A little after 2 a.m. on June 23, 2022, a sudden knock woke Aisha. When she opened the door, 2 Dayton police officers stood there. Aisha tried to explain that she never wanted the police coming to her home, knowing it would set Dante off. But it was too late.
Hello. Hi. Did you call?
I did, but I did say that I didn't want any police to come to my house.
Okay. Well, I called your phone. You didn't answer.
I didn't get a phone.
The visit convinced Dante that she had betrayed him, sealing her fate in his paranoid mind. Sensing another argument brewing, the officers chose to speak with them separately.
I called you, and she locked me in the basement.
You talk to her, I'll talk to you.
During her interview, Aisha revealed some surprising details. According to her, when Dante grabbed the gun and threatened to kill her if she did not leave the house, she insisted and kept on asking for the gun since it belonged to her. For some reason, this made Dante extremely angry, and he walked down to the basement with the gun. That's when Aisha called 911, but never imagined what he was planning down there. From the basement, Dante kept telling Aisha to leave the house and repeatedly asked her when she was going to go.
Grab the gun. So he was like, "Do I get out of my house?" So I was like, okay. Just okay. Like now at this point, you got the gun in his hand. So I let things calm down like an hour, and I was like, "Are you going to give me my gun? Like, I don't care what you do with it, but you need to put it down. Like, give me my gun." So he was like, "My gun is registered in my name now. We got it right after.
So where is it now?
He has it. He has it downstairs in the basement.
Well, since we're talking about guns, you might just keep your hands on your pocket then. Perfect, thank you.
So last night, he had the gun in his hand. He came back upstairs like, we just started arguing, and he was like, I'll get my sisters and everybody to beat you up. And I was like, you're not going to do nothing. He was like, matter of fact, get out. I said, you can't put me out. I pay rent here. So he was like, you really willing to lose your life over a gun? Like, seriously? Like, you really trying to provoke me?
While this might seem simple, it's actually more complicated than it appears. But why wasn't Aisha leaving? Aisha was the one taking care of the home, handling daily responsibilities and big bills in the house. To make things worse, Dante's problems caused Aisha to lose a large amount of money on her credit card. She didn't have enough cash to pay for a hotel room for one night. On top of that, Dante took the credit card from her. So, Aisha knew leaving the house would leave her and her daughter stranded with no resources. She had already poured her savings into the household, and Dante's financial abuse, like stealing her credit card, left her penniless. After a few minutes of sharing her story, the officers understood that this was truly an unfortunate situation. But Aisha, who likely believed the police would fix the problem, was devastated by the solution they offered. The officers advised Aisha to leave the house. But this was easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, his dad owns a house. I've met his dad. His dad's a really good guy. His dad owns like 5 houses on this block. His could articulate it as domestic threats, but the fact that she's so, she obviously doesn't believe it. She doesn't believe it, or she would not still be here, sitting in the same house with her kid.
Aisha wasn't from Dayton. She had no family or friends nearby to turn to for help. When she moved in with Dante, she had done so out of love and hope for a fresh start. And in the process, she had isolated herself from her support network. Her life revolved around Dante and her daughter, leaving her with nowhere to go if she walked out. To make matters worse, Aisha had been the one managing the household, taking care of the daily expenses, so being told to leave the apartment didn't sit right with her. She proposed that Dante be the one removed instead. At this point, the officers had a tough choice to make. The officers then moved aside to talk about what to do next. However, their choice would be crucial in determining how the rest of the story unfolded and would greatly influence what happened in the near future.
I just don't see how this is a situation where she believes it's, I mean, she's saying she believes it's a genuine threat, but why, if that's the case, why are you still here? Why are you putting yourself in this situation?
They came back to try one last time to convince Aisha to leave, explaining that the house belonged to Dante's family and that removing him was never an option.
You legitimately don't feel like this is a good living situation for you? Then, like for me, if I was in a situation that wasn't good for me, I would want to get out.
Okay,
But
well, hear
the
me
fact
out,
that
though.
you're saying like, no, I'm going to
here.
stay.
I just got here. I don't have a relative's house I could go to. He wants to be here in the heat of this situation. Like I said, his dad owns 4 houses on this block. He could go to his granny house. He could go anywhere. You said cooler heads prevail. He's not trying to get out of this situation. He's trying to create an uncomfortable situation for me.
Right.
To where not only can I not live here peacefully, but he's making it to where I can't even go peacefully. Because he took my money. He
Right.
cleaned the account out. He cut off my credit cards. That's what he's doing. So what am I supposed to do?
The fact that this is a family member's house, like one of his family members' houses, you know he's not going anywhere. And they're not going to put him out unless you stay. It's just not. You know
He can willfully leave.
When she insisted, the officers not only decided to leave without taking the gun, but also left without giving him a warning, a choice that would lead to tragic consequences by morning. Aisha returned to the house, and an eerie silence settled in. The next morning, a family member, worried after not hearing from her, tried calling repeatedly. When there was no response, they grew alarmed and contacted the police for a welfare check. Officers arrived at the apartment, and at first glance, everything seemed normal. But the unnatural quiet hinted at something sinister. As they moved through the house, their search led them to the basement, where they made a heartbreaking discovery: the lifeless bodies of Aisha Nelson and her young daughter Harper Gwen. The scene was devastating, and Dante was gone, leaving behind a trail of evidence that pointed directly to him. The heartbreaking news of Aisha Nelson and her 6-year-old daughter Harper reached Aisha's mother, Keely Nelson, and her sister Tangia Nelson, leaving them devastated by the sudden loss. Their grief was overwhelming, and they struggled to understand how such a tragedy could happen, especially after Aisha had sought help.
I really get stuck sometimes. Like, I can't believe that my sister is not here. And then me being her twin sister is like, I'm just broken.
However, the days that followed would be unforgettable. With the case officially ruled a homicide, the police turned their full attention to tracking down Dante. They knew he wouldn't stay nearby, but they searched the town anyway. When their efforts turned up nothing, they expanded the search to neighboring states, and it was there, far from home, that they made another shocking discovery. Authorities learned that Dante was inside a car and armed. From a safe distance, they ordered him to step out, but he refused. As they cautiously approached, one officer looked inside and spotted an unmoving figure. Signaling to the others, they got closer to the car and confirmed Dante dead in his car from a self-inflicted wound using the gun Aisha had bought. In the days after Aisha and Harper's bodies were found, Keely and Tangia spoke openly about their grief. They shared how much Aisha loved her daughter and how devoted she was as a mother. Keely expressed deep sorrow over losing both her daughter and granddaughter in such a horrific way. The family also criticized the Dayton Police Department, accusing them of failing Aisha when she needed help the most. They pointed out that Aisha had reached out to the police, clearly expressing her fears, but the police officers left without taking meaningful action.
My daughter and my granddaughter were, that's it. They were, I know nothing else. I hold the officers accountable. Yes. Because if they would have did a better job with judgment, all three of them would be here.
They didn't do their job. And now Aisha and Harper are gone. It's about to be 4 months. They are no longer with us because police failed to protect them.
Keely and Tangia believed this inaction directly contributed to the tragedy, a sentiment echoed by many in the community who felt the police should have done more to protect Aisha.
There is a review being done by the Dayton Police Department Professional Standards Bureau on how that call was handled. But I will say any murder that we have is sad, especially when it involves a young child and her mother. I have spoke to the mother and grandmother of our victims, and the pain that she is experiencing is just, I can't describe it. I couldn't imagine it. And I have kids myself. So it is an issue that we're looking at. We take all these cases very seriously, and that's why we're going through everything that we can so far in this murder case.
Fueled by their grief and determination for justice, Aisha's family filed a lawsuit against the city of Dayton and its police department. The lawsuit alleged negligence, arguing that the officers' failure to act on Aisha's pleas for help played a role in her and Harper's deaths. Following the lawsuit, 2 officers were suspended for 160 hours and required to undergo further training.
Well, first at 10, it's been more than 6 months since Aisha Nelson called police to say her ex-boyfriend was threatening to kill her.
He followed through on those threats, and now an internal investigation blames in part 2 Dayton police officers' response to Nelson's calls for help. 2 News reporter Kajasia Hawkins joins us live in the studio. Kajasia, you talked with Aisha's family and attorneys. What are they telling you?
John, both Aisha's family and attorney Michael Wright say that police did not listen to her pleas for help, and it ultimately resulted in her and her daughter's lives being taken.
2 lives were lost, and we're saying that a 30-day suspension is warranted and some retraining. What needs to happen is immediate termination and retraining of the entire Dayton Police Department.
This implied a recognition of possible errors in their response to the domestic dispute. The family pursued not just justice, but also changes in police protocols to improve the handling of domestic violence cases and prevent similar tragedies. However, the response to the lawsuit was swift and shocking. The city and police department denied any wrongdoing, claiming they followed protocol and that Aisha had declined further assistance during her initial call.
Investigation into what led up to the murder of a Dayton woman and her 6-year-old daughter. Aisha Nelson made several 911 calls begging for help, saying her life was in danger. Just hours later, police say Nelson and her daughter were dead. Chelsea Sick breaks down those phone calls and takes questions directly to Dayton police.
Regional dispatch.
Hi, I have a question.
Aisha Nelson's first 911 call came in just before 5:30 on June 22nd. She asks how to file a police report after she says her boyfriend threatened to kill her.
He do have possession of a gun that I purchased. He did take it. And I didn't make a big fuss about it, but, since he threatened my life, he has the means to do it.
The dispatcher encourages her to go to a nearby police station and call from there to have an officer come out and take a report. He also reminds her there are local shelters she can stay at for safety. But according to regional dispatch records, she didn't call back until just after midnight on June 23rd. She asks for an officer to meet her at a Family Dollar so she could file a police report.
I don't want him arrested. I just want to make a report. Just in case anything does happen, because I'm going to protect myself.
The dispatcher says she'll send an officer to the Family Dollar. About 20 minutes later, Nelson calls dispatch back, concerned because she saw several officers rushing to another scene.
I do know that they all went to a call. As far as how long it may be that they're on that call, I don't know because I just don't have any details.
Nelson tells the dispatcher she will make the report in the morning. She's concerned about waiting too long with her 6-year-old daughter in the car.
You guys have my calls recorded. I don't know what else to do. I do realize that Dayton does have a short of police officers.
She asks the dispatcher to have officers call her if they can meet with her and plans to go back to the house.
I just don't want them to show up at the house.
Right.
I don't want to upset him.
I will go ahead and let them know that, okay?
That was the last 911 call she made. Her boyfriend, Waverly Halls, known as Dante, then called dispatch just after 1:30 in the morning.
My girlfriend in here acting crazy and blew up the house. I just wanted to get out the house. I don't want no problems.
Dispatch records show police responded to the call just before 1:40 and left about an hour later.
This defense sparked outrage, with many arguing that domestic violence cases require more proactive measures, especially when red flags like financial abuse and death threats are present. In May 2023, a Montgomery County judge dismissed the wrongful death lawsuit, rejecting claims that the officers were negligent or had a duty to protect Aisha. But in response, the family's attorney announced plans to appeal, signaling their continued fight to hold law enforcement accountable and advocate for changes in how domestic violence cases are handled. As we grieve the devastating loss of Aisha Nelson and her daughter Harper, unsettling questions remain. Could Aisha have taken more steps to protect herself and her child? Some may say she should have left earlier, but it's impossible to overlook the hardships she endured. Dante not only exhausted her finances by maxing out her credit cards, but also left her stranded in a place where she had no support system. The way this story ended is truly heartbreaking, and it leaves us wondering, could anything have been done differently to change the outcome? Let us know what you think in the comments section below.